Hi everybody, John here again, and we're continuing our discussion of version 4 Flames of War. I have Jacob and Mark with me again. This video we're going to be talking about Afrika Korps. So this is the German forces in the desert for mid-war version 4. So Jake, you're going to take the lead on this.
Yeah, so one of the resident German players, I love my DAC. It's actually one of the first armies that I really poured my heart and soul into when it came to painting, doing some research on them. So I was very excited when they're redoing these books. So I mean, kind of just diving right in, talk a little bit about the forces. So you do have options of taking a Panzer IV company, a Panzer III company, and then a Afrika Schützen company.
Rifle company, yeah.
Oh, sorry, rifle company. My apologies. Yeah. So I think kind of just diving right in. So the Panzer IIIs. One thing I actually really liked about this is they simplified the variants. I think from the get-go, I was always quite confused with Panzer III J-Late. The up armored, the E's, all these fun letters after each designation. Which I mean, this is a historical war game, so you get used to it. But it's nice that they've kind of simplified it. You've got the 5 centimeters long and short. Up armored, and then also the 7.5.
I know a lot of people online have talked about it too, that they don't like that they took that away, but again, it's just like, in soldiers in the field, they didn't refer to it that either.
Yeah.
I mean, they know
There's a Panzer III E4.
That's a Panzer III. It's a special, it's not a special, even they didn't call it that either. But it still, it doesn't take away from the game.
No.
The fact that you don't have to know what an NL is or an M is. If you want to know, hey, great, that's fine, but you don't need to know that.
Yeah.
You really don't.
And for the sake of simplification, I think even for new people getting into it, it's having mixed platoons of 4 different variants, and each one has just one stat slightly different than the other. It makes it difficult. This is a war game. This is the movie version of World War II, like people like to say. So kind of simplifying it helps it out. But one of the great things, and this kind of goes in with the new rules with the formations, is that you need to have 2 units in your formation that are in good spirits, including your HQ. And just like throughout the rest of the war, the German tanks are really expensive. And of course, they get great stats because of that. But when you make these lists, you'll find that your tank company is just eating up points.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, the Panzer, one thing that bothered me in prior editions, there was never a reason not to upgrade the Panzer III short to a long. It was a no-brainer. For that increased AT, you did it every single time. The points were never enough that made you even think that it was an option.
Yeah.
Now, the points are different, and it's got an AT of 8. Panzer III short has definitely got its place, I think, in this list. I think we're going to see a ton of them on the table.
And even the game we played, I find myself, most of the Panzer IIIs that I have, they have the long barrels. Yeah. So I found that, wow, I need more short barrels because you can fit more in the unit. Front armor 5 and with the AT of 8, you actually have more than enough to actually take out.
Those Crusaders and
Hunters. Yeah, it's more than enough, and especially the range. It's a little bit longer than the Allied variants, but is it 20? Oh,
no, the longest.
Yeah, the longest. But when you get up in that knife fighting range, it really doesn't matter at that point.
So the short has an AT of 9 and the long has an 8. And long has an AT of 9.
Yeah. So it's helpful there. And then also worth mentioning the 7.5 AT of 9, and it has heat and the 3+ firepower. So
it seems weird.
It is. It's such like a modern,
You think it's fine? I know it was around.
Yeah.
It just sounds weird.
That's interesting. So yeah.
I can wait for the the Milan missile on the top.
And then worth mentioning, you can still take a mixed platoon as one of your requisite platoons, so you can get a mix of the short, the longs, the up armored. So that's kind of nice. And then kind of rounding it out, you end up with a Panzer II light platoon as one of your core units. I really like that. I have historically am very aggressive with my reconnaissance units, and now that the dedicated reconnaissance units are actually worse at assaulting and things like that, the Panzer II kind of fills that role for me. They get spearhead. They aren't a true scout unit. They don't get the cautious movement, quote unquote, but they're cheap. They're good. They can you can be aggressive with them.
It gives you some numbers to bulk out your formation. So it gives you a little bit of numbers.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess kind of moving along, the Panzer IV company. Once again, this is something that they're expensive. It's 6 points per tank, and that's with the this short 7.5. So it's kind of rough. I mean, even think in our game, I felt like if you invest a lot, and you need to invest a lot into Panzer IVs to really get that return that you want. What's great, you give them that upgrade to get the long becomes AT-10. It's a 32-inch range, so they become that sniper that you really want. And you can kind of keep your distance from the British tanks and kind of pop them out before they get there.
Well, that's the competitor for the Sherman when and if it shows up in mid-war, because that's going to be very similar stats.
One thing I think is going to be different though is like I used to mix them up. I used to run some longs and shorts, but they've got completely different roles now.
Yes.
However, I know that your shorts, it's an artillery gun. That's and the way that artillery has changed is there's nothing stopping you from bombarding with your 2 shorts and then sniping from range with that 1 long.
Yeah.
It only says that if you can join an artillery bombardment, you have to. Well, 1 can't.
Yeah.
So it's your sniper and let your 4s bombard. So it's a distance. It seems like it's a distance tank. It's not up close and personal. That's your 3s. These sit back. They're either bombarding or they're sniping with a long barrel. Because right now, the Panzer III with the heat, it's as good as the long range because it's still going to have the same penetration and it has what's the firepower of the long? I think
3
it's the same firepower.
It's about the same.
Yeah.
I think that that the one good benefit, you have direct fire smoke too with the short. But I think then it comes into arguments of list building and we'll get to it. But the Martyr III got a shot in the arm. So for me, anytime I want to spend points on a long Panzer IV, I think I just need to up the platoon size of my Martyr IIIs. Sure. So we'll get to that though in a little bit.
And it seems like the Panzer IVs have you need to have a very specific role in mind for them. The Panzer III is just a great all-around tank. You can do a little bit of everything, but these guys, if you don't play them to their role, they
die just they have the same armor as a Panzer III that's not up armored, so they die just as easily and they cost more.
But they cost more.
Yeah.
See, I think this is a great example, though. I think why I'm kind of liking these new, the new Afrika Korps tanks is we're having a conversation of which ones we like and which that conversation never took place before. It was a no-brainer which tank that you took. Now everything's got a role and there's going to be some more thinking involved, and I like that because I like having 21st Panzer tanks. That's my unit, 21st Panzer, late war and mid war. So I'll be throwing them out the table too.
And I think kind of speaking even more broadly, I think that anytime this has changed a lot of our toys, you don't have the observers, the staff team. So things are changing, but it forces you to look at a different light. So we're having these conversations now, and this is something we haven't talked about in a while because it's gotten a little stale. So it's nice to it's a little difficult because it's different than what we're used to, but it's new and that's fun. So kind of moving on a little bit. So the rifle company, the unit they reference in here is kind of based on the 90th Light, which is actually when Mark dragged me into the desert kicking and screaming, I lashed onto that. And it was fun. It was an early war and mid-war tournament, 2-day tournament, and so I did the 90th Light. They started out training, went to veterans, so it's nice to see them here. And this is where I think you start seeing some of those really flavorful things missing. And specifically, for me, the PaK 36R, it's a bunch of Soviet guns that they thought, hey, we've got extras, let's take them to the desert. And they were mistaken for 88s and the damage they did. So they're great guns. And it's almost like an insult that they're talking about the 90th Light and left that out. So
some of the other things in 90th Light had too are completely missing in that too. That whole, in fact, the way I felt about 90th is just like every weapon they had, it seemed like it was really unique. They had access to, I think they had the 2 Stugs. They had, they just had weird stuff, and it's kind of gone right now.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a shame.
And so and I hold out hope. They have the wild card entry when you make these formations. Command cards, sorry. Wild card.
Wild cards for bring the SAS.
Yeah, bringing the SAS and stuff. So it'll be interesting. I hope they've heard the masses, and these are things they will hopefully add back in. Another gripe, I guess, when it comes to the Afrika Rifle Platoon, you're required to take a 2.8 centimeter anti-tank rifle. I, for one, I didn't have these in the list I did, so I had to go buy some for our game.
That's their plan.
Yeah, that was the master plan.
You did?
Well, so I did. So and it gets difficult because you can bid order them, but it doesn't come with the carriage. If you buy the actual company HQ, you only get one. So it's this really annoying position you put a lot of players who have these armies and just don't have them lying around. So I did something that the Germans did, and I bought some Italian anti-tank rifles. I dressed them up, put some camo netting over them, and those are my 2.8 centimeters. So it's very much in keeping with with the spirit of the DAC and
right.
commandeering weapons. So there's ways to work around it, but I think it's a little annoying that they're forcing.
Because they were optional before in the last.
They were optional before,
optional.
and I didn't see the point of it. I mean, they got a great boost. They're AT7 now, 5+ firepower, 2 shots. So I'm glad I have them, but I would still like to not be forced to try and match these old paint schemes for for infantry that I already have. Also interesting, you get there's no dedicated heavy machine gunner or mortar platoon. You can actually just add a single heavy machine gun or an 8cm mortar, and kind of like we'd spoken about in the deserts, the Desert Rats video. The mortars are so much stronger. It's I didn't use mine.
You didn't realize how good
I didn't really realize how good it was, but so it's a single mortar is the same as 2 mortars. Artillery is great if you repeat bombardments, then you have to re-roll save. So they're nasty, and I think it's worth those 2 points.
You're not too sure about the heavy machine gun though, but then again, I think more infantry we see on the tank. I'm seeing this just like Team Yankee was released. Everybody started out, oh god, it's a tank game. Infantry are useless.
Yeah, infantry are useless.
Completely switched around towards the end of the year. We'll probably see that here too. I think we're going to see infantry right off the bat. Don't look like they're going to be great because it's a smaller unit. They're vulnerable. If you get down below 3 teams, you're testing every single turn to run away. But I think just like Team Yankee, they're going to find a role for it here at some point after a series of games. But so I think the heavy machine gun then will come back in when you have
I need to stop
a bunch of infantry coming in.
Yeah, it's I understand the point of view. I still disagree for now, but it just at a max size rifle platoon you're at 4 stands, which is just it's down from 7, which was just the core MG team. So it's smaller. They die with. Artillery is just nasty now. So for me right now, they're good at sitting on an objective. I just don't know how good they are at taking.
Well, that's good to emphasize again. The Afrika Rifle Platoon is 4 MG teams. That's it.
Period. There's plus the 2.8, which the required 2.8.
Yeah.
So you want to add that extra heavy machine gun team. You want to probably add that mortar team just to boost your numbers. And then the good news is, of course, it's the HMG team, the anti-tank gun team, and the mortar team. They're not gun teams; they're infantry teams. So you got a good save.
Yeah. But and then also required you taking the Pac 38s, which it's a solid gun. Their save is now 3+, 2 shots at 9, 4+ firepower. It's good. It holds its own. It's a good gun. Your Germans, you can sit in a forest and just.
You're going to see a lot of them. You're going to see a lot of those.
Well, you're going to see them because they're required.
But there's 3. I think there's 3 in the right. I think there are 3 options for 3.
Yeah, up to 3.
Yeah, there's options
for I think you're going to see a lot of them out there.
Yeah, I could see that. And then so you have the SDKFC 10/4 light AA platoon. Just as a tactical point, I ignore airplanes. There's a 50-50 chance they're coming on the board. So
depending on who you play, right?
Depending on who you play. So I like to gamble to put my points in the thing. So it's useful. It's unarmored, so it's kind of light.
But don't forget, remember, it's like Team Yankee. You don't have to park it out there. Put in some woods or whatever. Hide it. It can still fire. Not easy to knock out those planes though. Even with having AA, it's different. It's hard to knock out the planes, but. You saw what the planes could do when they do come in.
When they do come in, it's mean, and it's worth it to actually apply some elbow grease to get rid of them because you lose the plane, it's gone. Yeah. You don't get the same back.
It's another unit for your formation too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's that. Like you're saying, there's some very flavorful things in the 90th Light that I think are missing. So, but that's that's a common complaint.
It took a hit.
So
of all the formations in there, 90th Light's definitely the loser.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you count everything together, it is. You're just missing out on a ton of. To me, the whole field of Africa too is captured equipment. They took what they could and used it against you. Grant, sure you can proxy. You want to put a 6-pounder for a Pac 38. Yeah. The stats are pretty similar. That's not a big deal actually. I don't see that being as too difficult. You can model that either way, but there are some pieces missing.
Captured Honey Stewarts, you said.
Yeah.
That's sad.
It's that it might come in at some point.
It might come in.
But it's something I have 5. I love them. I would use them a lot, but that's gone. And I think other people, we don't really share this concern as much, might gripe that the Panzer III platoon losing the variation within having the A's and E's grouped together into just 5 centimeter long and short. They might complain that that's kind of you've lost some flavor there, but I don't really feel that's the case.
Yeah, because you can still have a mixed platoon that has up armored, long, short.
But I mean, like keeping the designations and having the subtle differences.
But you can still mix in the unit.
Yeah.
But you can still do that. You can still use those models.
Yeah.
Call them that.
Sure.
But they have the same stats.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, if you want that level, it's still open to you.
Mhm.
It's just a choice now.
Yeah.
For those guys who don't care. It's a Panzer.
We're in the desert, we have water. We have water in the desert.
Okay. So you know, kind of moving on to some of the support units.
Support units, okay.
You have the Tiger,
Here we go.
which
Here we go.
So this is the elephant in the room, the tiger in the room, right?
Yeah.
you know, once again, it's the movie version of World War II. I know that the Tiger tank was only there quite late in the desert, but I can understand the point of view of, you know, we want to have a big toy in the desert, and that goes counter to the things like Mark and I sometimes enjoy is the gentleman's war that occurred when you had not the best equipment and you got by with what you had. So it's tough. I don't see this being an auto take in most German lists, in all honesty.
I think it takes out the chance that you take another tanks. If you're taking a
Yeah.
Tiger, you're probably not taking other Panzers. You're loading up on rifles. You might take some mortars and a Tiger, but otherwise, I don't think you're taking other tanks. But you know, again, it's a Tiger. I don't have a lot to say about it.
Because one
I just
Tiger-
don't want to see it all the time. I really don't.
Right.
You know, late war, pile them in. But to me, it's like every time you see a Tiger, you know you're playing Tunisia.
Mhm.
That's all you're playing.
Well, and one tiger's 29 points out of your 100 point
Out of your-
list.
Pricey.
If you're playing 100 points.
And it's a support choice. It's not a core.
And it's a sport choice.
Yeah.
For now, I guess. Anyway.
So it's interesting. Yeah.
For now. Who knows?
You know, it's interesting. A lot of the Tiger A skills, a lot of those things were actually wrapped up into his organic stats that he has. You know, his remounts 2+, his last stand is 2+. So he's a tough nut to crack. You have to kill him. You can't really morale him off the board.
You can't morale him off the ball, but
Yeah.
you can contain the
You
Tiger.
You
get
can.
a little chair and a whip,
Oh my God.
and you contain it. But I mean, it's you unless you're taking 1725s, you're not killing it.
No, you're
And
not.
So you're either going to contain it with smoke, you're going to ignore it, knowing you're losing 1 to 2 tanks a turn. The only thing is, you know, if it wants to come park on your objective, is your morale of your infantry going to hold out better than what his counterattack is? What is his counterattack?
I think
4+.
it's just 4+,
So
which-
British are a 3+, and if you've got a HQ there, you might outlast
to
it.
get last.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's the same argument I think we have when the King Tiger came out, which is this is impossible. How do you kill it? So you ignore it, you
Yeah.
smoke it, and you just kill everything else because it takes up such a large portion of the other person's army.
Yeah, but with King Tigers, though, your side armor is 8, which late war. was
Yeah,
15.
yeah.
you kill it.
Yeah.
Side armor 8 in mid war is a different proposition.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about that. What can hurt the Tiger? We know the 17-pounder.
Well, I mean, that's it. I mean, yes.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, honestly,
Short
technically,
discussion.
there are weapons right now that can bail it. from
Bail
the
it.
side.
On the side.
Everything, you know, a Grant, a 6-pounder Crusader, they can bail it. And a 6-pounder gun can bail it from the side. But
Is it worth it?
well, it's
It
the thing.
rebounds
How
on a
to
2+.
for that to actually
It
occur.
rebounds on a 2, yeah.
Yeah, and even if it fails that, its motivation is
4.
last stand. No.
Oh, last stand.
Last stand is
2+.
a 2+.
Yeah.
So for all that to occur, and there's no way am I going to shoot any anti-tank rounds at it, unless I've got 1725s, and even then, that long range,
Yeah.
his phenomenon is going to be a 10,
10
basically
versus
versus your
12,
12. Still, what's the point? Smoke it, ignore it, kill everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of new players, though, they're going to
You're gonna see,
gravitate to that.
you're
You're
gonna
gonna
see,
see a
it.
lot
Yeah.
of them.
No, I mean, and it's iconic. It's fun. It's iconic for Tunisia. It's not
Yeah, it is.
for the rest. So
It's an iconic tank of the war.
Yeah.
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 I mean, it is. Yeah.
That
So-
might be the most famous tank. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
Wow,
people-
the Sherman, the Sherman
Yeah, I
player?
feel bad. Are you okay?
Well, I love the Sherman, but I don't think that's the same for everybody.
It's not the Cromwell?
So what do you guys think about that option, though, in the Tiger platoon for taking an escort tank? Good or
So-
no? 8 points
I don't
for...
even bother.
I don't really see the point. I mean, I know that there's also the special rule where those
Doesn't
don't
matter.
It
count
doesn't count
against
against
you
you,
when those
right.
are killed. So they're there to generate more shots. Like you said, if you're taking a Tiger, you're not really taking many other tanks.
So there might be one way to get
Maybe it's another way to bring some more tanks into the fold and have some more AT shots. So it killed more than just 2 tanks a turn. But it's,
Sure.
I mean, they're kind of.
Well, actually, you think about it. I tell you what, when they do come in, is if you do face 1725s, you're going to guess what you're going to be bouncing those shots to first.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to probably try to put them on those escort tanks, which is supposedly their role, I suppose. But.
Yeah.
So,
It's a crappy job.
It's crappy. Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do
Your
it.
job is to take the first
Best
hit.
job I ever had.
Best job. Oh my gosh. All right. So I guess moving down the line, the Martyr 3s. I love these things. They got such a shot in the arm. I had 4. I love. It's a beautiful tank. It's a Panzer 38 or 38T. They got gutted and they put basically a Pac 36R going on it. So
How much are we paying for that?
So right now, what is it? 2 is 8 points, and then they're about 4 points each from they're out to a unit of 4. They're only for armor 2, but their gun is AT-12, 3+ firepower, 32-inch
It's a
range.
brutal
It's
gun.
nasty.
So what was its improvement from version 3?
I think it was AT-11, 3+ firepower, 2 shots. So it doesn't seem like that much, but given the overall changes in the enemy's
Everywhere
armor
else.
values,
Yeah.
it's coming to its own. And like I said before, when I'm spending, I think it's 10 points for 2 Panzer 4, 12 points for 2 Panzer 4s, and then the additional points. I mean, my might be off. I think it's 10 for 2 Panzer 4s, but
I think a Panzer full long is 10 points.
it's 10 points. Yeah, 10 points. Yeah, so 20 points for 2 of those, and it's just like, you know what? I'm gonna get 4 Martyr 3s. That's where I would put my money.
And that's where I'm taking Hurricanes.
and then like you said, it comes to the rock paper scissors with this because the Hurricanes will just eat it up. So maybe I will buy a. I don't know.
How many of these can you get on the list?
4.
So, but just one.
It's
One support
platoon.
choice. Yeah, but I mean, in the game we played, they wiped out one Crusader.
You can't put tanks in front of them and think they're going to survive. They will not.
Yeah.
No.
And grants, you're putting a lot of money into grants. It outranges the grant. It's going to punch right through a grant. Granted, if the grant shoots first and hits, but it doesn't matter. It's a sniper. It's a killer. It's a great vehicle, and it cannot be ignored by the Brits. Absolutely cannot be ignored.
In any defensive scenario, that's what you're putting in ambush, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's funny because kind of
What's the cross value?
the cross value is 4.
Ooh, so it's got a little bit of problem there. So okay.
Yeah. But I mean, the way I envision them is, the 88, you always put it in an open field. You want it to kind of anchor your entire army. But there's always this portion that they're going to just shove tanks down your throat. And that's where the Martyr 3 comes into play. You can actually be able to put it where you need it to be. It can be the 88s that move around. So, yeah, kind of moving on. So 88s can actually move around now, which is
It's almost the star of the list, I think, almost.
the
The
Martyr 3.
Martyr. Yeah, I agree. I'd say so.
They're fun. So the 88s, you know them, you love them. They're now AT-14, 3+ firepower. They have rate of fire 2. You can't increase the rate of fire anymore. They have a 4+ save just as a blanket, doesn't change. And now they're large guns, so when they're dug in, they can be concealed, which adds a lot.
That's big.
It's very big.
Yeah.
Unless your artillery's hitting.
Unless your artillery is hitting them, which kind of begs the question. I think there's so many good long range hitters in this list. You got Panzer IVs with the long barrel. You got the Martyr 3s, and you got the heavy AA 88s. So it's almost, we mentioned this. Is it better to have just a single 88 who is either shooting or he's dead? Because if you take 2, you lose 1. You're not taking a last stand every single. And that's how I lost mine in my game. That's another spoiler. We're bad at this.
No spoilers.
no more spoilers. So there's something.
Mention the reroll.
So, anyways, it's really worth thinking about. But I think it feels
It's iconic again. It's iconic of the desert. The 88. But then again, of course, everything was an 88. But you hear the stories of them saying that they could see the shell going across the desert floor, setting up the plume. And
it was a Pac 36R shell. That was
it
was a little bit.
Doesn't exist now, but and then the tank. You hear the reports of the tank commander, the British, just being glad that it passed by that tank. I mean, it's a devastating weapon. It's so iconic. I actually have mine mounted up on the limbers, so I'm fielding that way. But yeah, 1 or 2. I don't know, maybe just 1. It seems to be the way to go. And the points keep it reasonable.
6 points.
6 points for 1.
Yeah.
Especially for something with that reach.
And then it's hard. And it's like as a British player, it's just like, do I want to dedicate an artillery battery to try and knock out that one gun? If there's 2, it's a no-brainer. I'm putting artillery on it for sure. Yeah. If there's 1 gun, I might not, because it's it's a 50-50 chance of hitting it. Yeah. There's less chance of probably killing that gun. So
and it's a support platoon, so it's not going to be.
It's not helping you break any formation.
Yeah, so 1 gun might be the way to go.
And this is a silly thing that I just think is interesting. But it used to be immobile in version 3. Now it can actually move 2 inches. It's not tactical, but it's one of those things where it's worth at least mentioning because now your 88s aren't truly stuck there. Yeah. You just
put it on a road. Put it on a road, and
I got wheels on
4
it.
inches.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's unfortunately there's no transport options here right now. So.
Well, the other thing with that too is we haven't seen it yet, but it also has AA.
Yes.
I mean,
I don't know if it's worth it. Yeah, the shot.
It's just rate of fire 1 because
rate of fire 1. You're gonna hit my planes on a 5+. I get a 3+ save. Yeah. And then you go into 5. That's a lot
of rolling.
And then you're not shooting ground targets next turn.
But if you don't have any other shots,
It's,
I mean,
it's,
you've
it,
got
it may be,
that.
it may be
Yeah,
worth it.
maybe.
But I mean, even in our game, there were, I was presented with that decision. I said, you know what? No, I need to break this tank company. I can't shoot 80 at anything else right now. Kind of moving on, talking about the scout troop from the support. You got the 2 centimeter little SDKFZ 221 and 222, and then you have the 8 rad, which or not the 8 rad, but the 8 wheel 231. I always took the heavy scout on the 8 rad back in the day. Like I've said before, I'm very aggressive with it. One interesting thing with the scouts now is that actually they're more reluctant. Their last stand isn't very good. Their counterattack and assault isn't very good. But that's the whole point of them. They're scouts. They're not supposed to be being jammed down someone's throat, which is quite an ahistorical way of playing that I'm very guilty of. So they are good for that spearhead, getting the extra kind of space up there. Their rate of fire, it's the same gun as the Panzer II, but it's a little bit greater rate of fire. So
what do you foresee if you were to take those again? What would you foresee using them for after spearhead?
not much.
There's not a lot to do with them, right?
And that's why I really think that when I head in the future, I'm going to be getting more Panzer IIs, and they're going to be getting me that spearhead, because after that, I don't really see much of a use for them.
I can see them as like late game objective grabbers or
Possibly,
objective contesters.
So I think the British are in a different position, I think, because they have the Humbers, which is it's an okay armored car, but for example, let's say you do take the AA half tracks. That's a great target for me to go after if I'm bringing Hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
But are you going to go after Bofors with those? No, because you're probably not going to kill the Bofors, and the Bofors are going to...
They're going to kill me.
Right. But I love the 222. I mean, not because it's great. I think I had a model kit as a kid, and I just love that vehicle. I love that armored car. I have that platoon. I would probably field it. But I don't know. Yeah, once you've spearheaded it, I don't know what I'm going to use it for. I really don't know what role it's going to take on. Maybe it's going to be hunting those hidden universal carriers.
Yeah, the universal carriers.
That's probably going to be the role. Yeah.
But and then you wonder, why wouldn't you just take a Panzer II platoon instead? They can do it better. They've got more armor.
Have one Panzer II.
True.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too, you can take these to counter infantry. Infantry moving fast. These guys can get over there and put some machine gun fire on them.
It's going to keep them in the holes, which makes it unfortunately more static again in the game, but we'll see.
Yeah. So moving on to the artillery, I think the Brits kind of got off a little bit better with the artillery. I know the 1725 Pounder had that dual role of anti-tank as well as the artillery.
Yes.
The 10.5 here, it's not, it's 14 points for 4 guns.
Mm-hmm.
It does dish out some, it's pretty nasty against infantry, when you get that repeat bombardment, but
It's 14 points.
there's 14 points, and there's so many other, with the British, you're doing double duty. With the Germans, there's so many other things that are better at taking out tanks. That really, I'm taking it for the smoke, and that's so many points for one round of smoke.
Yeah.
That I feel like,
But you don't get them in your mortars, though.
No.
That's your only way to get smoke is the 10.5 artillery batteries.
Direct fire with the Panzer IVs, but it's not the same.
No.
It's not the same. So I don't know. There's a degree of you're paying 7 points if you do the minimum for one turn of smoke, which I don't know if I see the utility in that, but
I have a bag. I think I bought actually my 4 from you. Actually, I may have done, and I haven't built them yet.
The 105s?
Yeah.
No, actually no. I might have built and painted.
Oh, then I must have bought
A real back player.
Okay. That's right. No, he took the 25, so yes, he captured 25s, which you can't get anymore.
Anyways, so I think that it's I don't know if it has a place in my list. Some people may find a use for it, but I don't see much of one.
Yeah.
You have the Panzer II OP. We kind of discussed already in the British one about the benefits and the negatives. I mean, your formation commanders can also range in just as well.
The Honey's just better.
Well, yeah, the Honey's like a legitimate tank.
Points.
The Panzer II is
a
somewhat, So I don't know, we didn't really make out very well. So once again, I don't see myself taking the 105s that often, and I also don't see myself, if I do, taking an OP as well, because there's just so many other people that are sitting around that could observe.
Let's talk about the other artillery.
Well, okay, yeah. I know you're very excited. So, and this, the Lorraine Schlepper. I feel like this is kind of goes into the argument of, there are 14? I think we were trying to count.
I don't remember how many, but I think 155th Battery and 21st Pans I had, and I can't remember how many they had.
It's just this is something that's it was so unique and so rare that it's interesting that it found its way into this book when there's other things that were much more common that didn't. These are the gripes we've had before, but on the actual gun itself, it's nasty. It's 2+ firepower. So when you get 2 of those, even though you're re-rolling successful hits against infantry, when they're re-rolling their saves and you're doing a 2+ firepower, it's gonna tear them apart.
Yeah.
I played in a little test game, it was doing some nasty damage. I just had a couple of them, but then again, I rolled in with Hurricanes to take that threat out as quick as possible. But again, 21st Panzer is my late war list. I love the Butestug list, absolutely adore that list. So I have Lorraine Schlepps, I have 3 spare. Yeah, so I have 21st Panzer late war, and I have 3 Lorraine Schlepps in there already for that one. I have 3 spare. I don't know if I'm going to put 3, go with 6 late war, or do I want to use 2? But it's because again, it's just one of those vehicles that I love, and it's dangerous. It really is. It's hard. Not so great in direct fire because you can move and shoot it, but indirectly, it is going to clear an area of ground. It's just going to clear it.
Which it might be.
It's cheaper than the 105.
It's cheaper than 105, 6 points for 2. And
now, when I see the benefits here, first of all, for this one, thank you for interrupting you, but it's okay. There's no smoke though. It doesn't have smoke. However, it's also not a gun team, so it is less vulnerable to counter battery from mortars, artillery. But it is, the one thing that it is vulnerable to is, of course, is that Hurricane's going to tear it up.
I think in our game, we were getting to a point where I'm just all spoilers. The Panzer IIIs. I didn't have many left.
No spoilers.
Watch the game before this. I was running low on tanks, and I really needed to shoot through an infantry platoon. And when I got to Mark's backfield, it was just full, and I couldn't get through it in enough time before he wore out the tank. So this is actually maybe a cheap option to just throughout the game just be pounding away at the other person's artillery, the other person's infantry platoon sitting on its objective. Please. No. I'll get the plastic ones. So it's I'm kind of a little I'm persuaded to try them out, but once again, it's annoying that they need to be babysat with AA that in and of itself needs to be babysat. So
right, yeah, and I think for me, I'm going 2. I don't think I want to do. I mean 4. Yeah, I mean actually,
4 is 12 points.
It's going to cause some damage, but again, you spend so much in tanks, you run out of points quickly. So a pair maybe, but yeah.
But that could be the meta. What if the meta is all of a sudden infantry
Exactly.
heavy?
If you're going infantry heavy and some martyrs, then maybe you take 4 Schlepps, and I can see that being pretty good.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And to kind of round this out, the Stuka. It's good. It's there. It's a bomb. AT4 2+ firepower. I'm pretty biased against planes. It's a unit that's not on the table. You're rolling for it to appear, and then it goes away and you have to roll it each turn.
You can't rely on it.
No, you
just
can't.
Cannot rely on it.
But I mean, they're survivable. Like you hit them on a 3, on a 5+. Save on a 3+.
Yeah.
And it fills a role that the Germans don't have a problem with. AT4 2+ firepower. You got better things to take out tanks. So I don't see much of a use for it. Once again, I think maybe the Lorraine Schlepps is actually a better kind of backfield. Artillery guy. I don't know if you feel like it's quite necessary.
I don't. I think the Hurricane has a better role for the Brits than the Stuka does for the Germans. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Stuka. It's iconic.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And I have 4 desert painted up, so they'll be on terrain desert airfield, I guess. But no, it's an option. I mean, that's the thing is sometimes you just want to try something different. I'll throw a couple of Stukas in there. Why not?
Now again, here's my complaint. They could have also given us the cannon armed variant of the Stuka, which might have filled a more interesting
in the desert though? I don't know if that version was in the desert. I do not believe. No, it wasn't. It was just on the east front. I don't think they had. It may have been in the Tunisian campaign, possibly, but not in the middle of the desert.
But I like that. But you're right. It really doesn't fill a role that other German stuff does better.
There's some redundancy in the German list. So
Anyway, you want them on the ground so the SAS can blow them up. I mean, that's what they're there for. Don't put them in the air. Let us blow them up on the ground.
And like in the rest of the book, there's a beautiful painting guide. It's fun to look at. And then at the beginning they talk about some of the history. It's more brief. I'm used to the North Africa mid-war book, which I still consider one of the best balanced books they ever made.
Really?
So, yeah.
I didn't like it as much.
Really?
I didn't. I thought that maybe because the forces I played did not seem to. In fact,
I guess if you took out the Tigers.
Actually, if you took out East Front. If you played mid-war general, you didn't take British tanks. Period.
You
did not take.
Because they could not compete against the Eastern Front.
I guess what I meant is like internal balance.
Internal balance was good.
If you just said let's play out of this book, those were some of the most fun games I had. So, that had a lot of heavy history in it. It's good. This also does kind of go over it briefly, but there's some things missing. But it's once again they're cheaper, they're smaller. I'm more excited to see different variations of the lists and have them, I'm not spending 60, $50 on a book every time they redo it. This is a little cheaper.
One thing I do want to give, Battlefront kudos. I mean, yeah, this is like I said, my iconic book, but how far they've come in layout.
Yes.
I mean, the new books, let's face it, the Team Yankee books, these books.
Oh, these are gorgeous.
Even though we only have digital ones right now, they're just fantastic.
Yeah.
They're a beautiful layout. I won't let go of this because it's just iconic for me, but, they've done a fantastic job with the way it's laid out. It just looks crisp, clear.
It's nice looking. Yeah.
The thing too is, how much did you think you paid for that when it first came out?
I think it was in shillings back then.
Shillings?
Honestly, I don't remember, to be honest. But they had the great cartoons, the essays. I forgot all about that too. I don't know how much it was.
I don't know, but it seems like they're very they're priced aggressively on these rule books.
Yes.
Unlike other companies, $40K. This is what, 20 bucks? $20 for this?
Yeah, it's around there. Yeah.
It has a 40-page book. I think is what it's going to be. But that's pretty nice.
Yeah,
it is reasonable.
I'll pay premium money for premium sculpts, but the rules I think shouldn't be something that hinder me from
Well, that's something we got a lot of plastic, and also people. I remember the people crying about, no, I don't want plastic, don't want plastic. I completely hear now. People are saying, I don't want resin, I want all plastic. But yeah, I'm going to buy some Crusaders. $45 for 5 Crusaders.
Oh,
absolutely. I'm going to be buying some plastic tanks. There's a ton of plastic kits coming out. I will not replace completely my force that I have, but I will be adding on to it. So,
and I mean, same thing here. I'm buying Panzer IIIs. Apparently can't buy your Lorraine Schlepp, so I'll probably be buying some plastic.
I don't think those are plastic. I think they're going to be.
Oh, are they really resin? Oh, okay. So, but either way, it's. I mean, overall, I'm excited. I think that there's definitely some things that are missing. I think between the two books, I think the Germans kind of got the short end of the stick with regards to some of the flavor being taken out.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah,
But if
flavor. What about power?
Based on one game, it was even. I mean, it was a
great game.
It was a good game. So I think there's going to be some ways to kind of bounce around it and see what it is. But
I would say British came up. I would say Germans didn't drop. I think there was a little bit of a balance that the British now are up there, even with the Germans. I think it's a really good matchup.
Yeah.
And then we haven't played with Tigers or 70-pounders yet. But,
no,
we have not.
But
I would agree. That seemed pretty cool.
I'm excited. I love the desert. This is kind of given Flames of War a shot in the arm. You can see what I have been doing because as I have been playing much Flames of War, so this will be good. I'm excited. Going to be fleshing it out and kind of see what I can do.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. I think these are the first books for version 4, so that means they're only going to get better. I mean, and I think they're listening to the feedback from their players. Like there was a big knee-jerk reaction when these were announced that the flavor was going to be gone, and they've already talked about the new command cards.
Interesting to see if that was more of a reaction. I can't imagine because it takes time to organize. They must have known about this a while ago to have plans for these command cards. I don't think it's a pure reaction, but sometimes just when you hear all these negative remarks, you might want to say, hey, by the way, hold on. You don't have to give a lot of info, but just say, you know what, don't worry guys, we're not leaving you all.
Gamers are hard to please.
We are. We're never please all.
Either they say too much or not enough.
I want resin.
But I think the future looks cool. I mean,
yes,
I'm excited for it. Yeah, we've lost a few things, and a few things are different, but...
Well, that's the first desert game I've played. I don't remember the last time I played a desert game. So, hey, that's a great start right there.
Yeah.
Well, we played a version 3 desert game. It's on the channel.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. You guys did. Yes.
And that was fun. I mean,
it was
a good time. But
how'd you feel playing that one rules wise compared to this one? Big difference or no?
These rules are new. I think that I was a little more static in the game we played. Just my memory might be a little hazy. So I think that this was fun because the way the point system's set up. I think most people are going to be running a mixed, 2 formations, at least 1 tank, 1 infantry. And in the version the version 3 list I had, it was much more infantry based, a little more static. So it makes the game more dynamic, which is really true to the desert. So
All right, guys. Well, anything else on Afrika Korps?
No.
All right. Well, guys, that's our discussion on Afrika Korps. Hope you enjoyed this. If you liked what you saw, please go ahead and give us a subscribe and a like. If you have any questions or comments about Afrika Korps, go ahead and leave them below. Let us know what you think about Afrika Korps. We like hearing from you guys. So anyway, thanks for watching and keep on wargaming.